Top three most difficult things to deal with as a service dog handler. Now, I do understand that that's going to be different for everyone. Like, different handlers are going to have different opinions on this, but this is just coming from me and how I operate. So, probably the most difficult thing I'll name last, but the most one that's sticking on my mind right now is even just picking the breed. Like, if you go online, you'll have people talk about the Fabulous Four. Now, the original service dogs were guide dogs, those were German Shepherds. Those aren't necessarily the best bred anymore. It can be hard to find a German Shepherd that has the exact qualities you want as an individual. And a lot of the people that want a German Shepherd actually don't want the original German Shepherd. They want more of what is a modern Shepherd. And even that can be iffy. Herding breeds can be difficult for service work, especially psychiatric service work, although a lot of that is breed judgment. It's not necessarily the hard rule, but it is definitely something to consider with some dogs on the spectrum of herding breeds. That includes dogs like Shelties and soft dogs. Now, that's something you might not know if you haven't done a lot of research on what breeds you should use. And if you're dealing with an organization, that organization is going to pre-pick the breed that they like the most. And so different organizations have different trainers, and different trainers prefer working with different breeds. This is why I often advocate for you as an individual to own your own dog. That allows you a little bit more of the customization, which I think everyone deserves, to have the most optimized, customized experience to their individual needs. And within that caveat, like, a lot of people use labs, and I use a lab mix. I think both my last service dogs were classified as lab mixes, although Xena I don't really believe was a lab mix. But my current dog, I've seen the parents, and I can tell the lab influence in him. Labs are great, sporting dogs are great, just managing their energy needs, and everyone has individual different sort of energy and output requirements, especially when we're thinking about psychiatric disability. Breeds like Huskies can do the work. It's just whether or not you can find a Husky that's dependent enough to really enjoy service dog work. Service dogs need a mixture of independence and, like, what's going on with my chains here? Independence, but also codependence and interspecies wants to communicate. A lot of Huskies, if they're bred true to nature, are bred to be fast and to go fast. So knowing how to pick the dog that's right for you. So some people might be able to work a Malinois. A lot of people wouldn't recommend a Malinois for service work. But there's a lot of people that make them work in their fabulous teams. Same thing with like Cane Corsos. I said the name wrong so much, people are gonna get mad. At least I don't say Kanye Corso anymore. But the Italian Mastiffs or big guardian breeds, livestock guardian breeds. I know people that have made livestock guardian breeds work. It really depends on the individual handler and trainer. And part of why I advocate for you to be your own trainer and handler is because if you can't handle or train, if you can't train, at least to a bare minimum, you're not going to be able to handle well. There's not this like handler is over here and trainer is over here. It's a Venn diagram, and that in-between space where you're going to be as a handler and service dog trainer. Like, you're going to learn how to train certain things because you're going to want to know how to do that, because if you don't know how to do it yourself, you're constantly going back and forth to the trainer, and there's just some things that you're going to figure out. Like, just living with a dog, you're going to figure out the basics of training. There's no way, if you're doing it right, that you won't. Now, congratulations, you found the dog of your dreams. Turns out it's a restricted breed in your area. Whoops. I can't tell you what the laws are in your local area. I know Ontario has a pit bull type dog ban. So if I go to Ontario, even though my dog's heritage is questionable, he's questionable enough to be labeled a pit bull, he could be seized based on the law that Ontario has. So that's something that you gotta think about, is that unfortunately pit bulls and pit bull type dogs, like a true pit, is not going to make a good service dog. The one with the actual prey aggression, no, that's not going to work. Way too drivey. For public access safety. Now, that dog could learn service dog tasks, but remember that the service dog needs to be safe for the public. Now, there's going to be a lot of people telling you not to use mutts. I like working with a good old mutt any day of the week. They say that mutts are unpredictable. That's not true. You just need to know the parents, ideally. But if you know how to watch dog behavior, that'll tell you a lot about individual dogs. But ideally, yes, the best situation is to go to a really good breeder Get a nice purebred dog that has good genetics and a good robust background, isn't too line bred, and get yourself something nice and balanced. That would be ideal. But if you live in an area where that's not possible, and also you might live in an area where only an organization can get you a service animal, which really sucks, or assistance dogs, usually called that in those countries, that really sucks. But number two is definitely potential breed stigma and issues you might find in that individual breed. Like the difference between working Xena and like a little border collie mix and working Gohan is completely different. Like people give Gohan a lot of space, and I'm like, he's not even a scary dog at all, to me at least. But in medical professions, people are very intimidated by him, even though he has no real intimidation factor to someone like me. But that being said, I imagine if he looked more like a lab, which he has his lab genetics in him, if he looked more like a lab, people would be a little less freaked out, which is a shame, really, if you think about it, because people aren't watching his behavior, they're judging him for traits that they see. By traits, and when I say traits that they see, I'm talking about physical traits, not behavioral traits. When people are looking at him for behavioral traits, it's pretty obvious. So that's definitely the breed stigma part, especially if like you're someone that likes pit bulls and bullies. It really sucks. Or you like your guardian breeds. The more scary the perception, the more that can actually influence unfairly your ability to maneuver through society as a service dog team. Number three is the individual weakness of each breed. So for example, if you get yourself a Schnauzer or a Poodle, you have to groom that dog. You have to pay for grooming for that dog. That can be expensive and irritating, especially basically part of what you're doing with that dog is setting it up with a groomer right away. If you're dealing with German Shepherds or Huskies or anything with a dual coat, you're dealing with a lot of shedding, constant shedding, and you need to think about how that affects the public and other people around you. Potentially training your dog not to shake is a pretty good idea. With my dog like Gohan, he needs a coat most of the year. Sorry, my dumbass decided to have one of these. So I'm burping up a storm, but I'm trying to control my constant cravings because of PCOS and PMDD. Anyway, I digress. Gohan needs a coat pretty much all the time. And because he needs a coat pretty much all the time, I'm kind of always irritating my own disability to put the coat on him. It affects my enjoyment of weather. It affects my enjoyment of us as a service dog team. It's not the worst thing in the world, and I'm very grateful that I was able to get sponsorship for a very nice coat. Ideally, he'd have a snowsuit, but that's not the best for everything that we do, but the snowsuit would help a lot. I find because he is a mixed breed, potentially, I have not been able to ever find boots that fit his feet properly, which really sucks. If anyone that knows anyone that specializes in lab kind type feet for shoes, let me know. That would be great, because trying to find shoes for this dog is a nightmare, and I'm constantly dealing with what the environment puts us through. And I think for my next dog, I would definitely get a thicker coated dog, so I'm not constantly having to worry about them being too cold. Those are my top three most difficult things to deal with. We have number one, just even trying to select the right breed for you as a beginner service dog handler or someone who is disabled and wants to utilize a service dog. Number two is the stigmas attached to those breeds can be very alarming, and also this little quirks that the breeds have definitely can be alarming and annoying. And the last one is the nature of. Last one is just the things that can come up with certain breeds, like certain breeds shedding a lot, or in the case of my dog Gohan, him not having a thick enough coat to really withstand Canadian winters. Unfortunately, whoosh. If you like this type of content from me, please let me know in the comments. And either way, if you just like seeing me in your feed, subscribe. It makes such a huge difference. That's why we have YouTubers begging for it. And I think I'm offering you pretty good, intersectional, interesting content. And if I get, I don't know, 1,000 subscribers, I'll show off the muscles. The muscles. I'll turn this into a gun show.